the GDs is well documented, but only real fans of Chicago drill know about the war in O-Block that involves Chief Keef's Glow Gang and Lil Durk's OTF. Let's take a closer look at this beef. Chief Keef and Lil Durk are the two biggest rappers to emerge from the Chicago drill scene in the early 2010s. Even though they grew up together and were affiliated with some of the same people, the two are rarely seen together and haven't collaborated as much as you would expect. This is because around the time that they were both blowing up, they had a falling out after Durk was arrested and Keef refused to pay his bail. Both Chief Keef and Durk grew up around the same area on the south side. Keef grew up in the infamous O Block on the 6400 block of South King Drive. Durk grew up nearby in the Inglewood neighborhood and even spent some time living in Parkway Gardens. They're both affiliated with the 300 set of the Black Disciples, but Durk also has his own gang called OTF, or Only the Family, and Keef has his own called GBE, or Glory Boys Entertainment. They were all cool with each other early on and would collaborate on tracks together, but all that would change in the summer of 2013 when Lil Durk would get arrested on a gun charge. On June 5th, 2013, the Chicago police got an anonymous tip that there was a man with a loaded gun walking around the area. They showed up to the 7200 block of South Green Street in the south side and found Lil Durk standing beside his car. When police approached him, they claimed that they saw him throw a loaded .40 caliber handgun into his Hyundai Sonata. Durk was then arrested and charged with unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. He had been caught with a gun once before in 2011 and sentenced to 3 months in jail, which was his first felony. So when Durk was arrested again, just 2 years later, the charges would be even worse, and Durk was held on a $100,000 bond. Even though Durk had just signed a deal with Def Jam, he was still early in his career. He would need $10,000 to be able to post the bond and didn't have the cash at the time, so he reached out to Keef for help. But for whatever reason, Keef didn't give him the money. Fans also noticed that while all the other notable BDs like Lil Reese, Fredo Santana, L.A. Capone, and Rondo No. 9 tweeted something in support of Lil Durk when he got arrested, Chief Keef stayed silent. Instead, Chief would tweet OTG, hashtag only the glow. This was clearly a shot at Durk, as his label and rap group is known as OTF. Many took this to mean that Keef wasn't rocking with Durk because he wasn't GBE, and therefore, he wasn't responsible for what happened to him. Durk eventually posted bail, but it would take over a month. It's rumored that Durk had a rough time in Cook County because of his affiliations and got beat up pretty badly, but he would eventually end up getting out in July 2013. After being released, Durk would tweet, "I'm back. Did you miss me or you ain't care? I'm free." These are lyrics to Keef's first day out freestyle, and many assume that he was taking a shot at the rapper for failing to pay his bail. Keef would just double down on his earlier stance and tweeted, OTG. This would get under Durk's skin as he let off a wild Twitter rant that exposed the beef to the entire world. First, he shouted out Lil Reese and Fredo Santana for being 100 and not hashtag foo-foo. Clearly, throwing more shade at Keef, who was Fredo's cousin and homies with Lil Reese, he also tells Keef directly that he would have been killed if it weren't for 300. It's not clear if he's talking about a particular situation or if he's just saying that Keef wouldn't have survived in the South Side without his boys, but he had beef with his former friend. He kept going, tweeting, "All the money, but you can't go get hashtag D Rose. LOL, bad enough he on your ass already." D Rose was one of O Block's main shooters and was close to both Keef and Durk. Keef has mentioned him in several songs, and D Rose was considered a legend in Chicago for the work he put in on the streets. But he got locked up in 2012 and didn't get out until 2014. So Durk was throwing shade at Keef for giving him props in the music, but then not helping him post bail. Especially because at that time, Keef was one of the biggest rappers in the world. He also followed up by tweeting, "If you squad, then why you ain't get T Slick or D Rose? You got a bigger deal, right? Hashtag foo-foo." T Slick was another street legend in Chicago who grew up with Keef and Fredo. He was arrested for aggravated discharge of a firearm, and it's been rumored that he was either protecting Keef at the time, or he took the charge so he wouldn't have to go to jail. To this day, Keef's profile picture on Twitter is T Slick's mugshot, which proves that Keef clearly has some loyalty toward him. But according to Durk, Keef turned his back on both D Rose and T Slick after he got rich and famous, even though they had his back growing up. He also told Keef he couldn't return to his own neighborhood, tweeting, "Where are you gonna spend it? Because you can't come around here with it." Finally, Durk finishes his rant by saying, "Warning, I'm not hashtag Soldier Boy. This shit can get ugly." If this were 2021, Soldier probably would have jumped into the middle of this beef for the free promotion. But 2013 was a different time, and Soldier probably didn't want any more problems with rappers from Chicago. Early on in his career, Keef had ties to Soldier Boy. At one point, it was even rumored that Keef might sign to his SODMG label.
It is. Now, what's your future projects? What you got in store for the people?
Shit, sign with SODMG.
Who did you see? You signed with him?
On Fulton.
Oh, that's what's happening, man.
But not long before the Lil Durk beef popped off, Keef and Soulja would have a falling out after Keef's homie Ball Out allegedly robbed Soulja of his prized Jesus piece. Keef responded to Durk's rant by tweeting, "Just bought a 2013 four-wheeler for $10,000. $10,000, of course, was the exact amount of Durk's bail. He would also tweet, "I'm nothing else. I am O-Block." And "Can't believe something for the twit. That's crazy. Know damn well I know you just like you know me. Goofy ass used to be Brick." What he meant is that Durk can't ban him from O-Block because it's his neighborhood, and that he can't believe the rapper is spazzing on Twitter when they both know what each other is capable of doing. King Von later shed more light on the drama between Keef and OTF. He explained that it started before Durk even got locked up. Keef refused to pay the bail for another dude from O-Block named Trey 5, who was allegedly Von's brother. They were trying to raise money for his bail, which was $25,000. They already had about $18,000, so all they needed was an extra $7,500. They called Sosa to see if he could help out, and he said he just spent $7,500 on shoes, so of course he could help. But when they called him again a week later, he kept telling them he had it, but never actually came through and bailed him out.
So for the chain, for the loud shit, gonna get some money from my homie Vaughn, right? Like, say we call him, and we ask him money and shit, he say he gonna give it to him, right? So we say our homie booked the shit, his bond 25,000. We got 18,000, we need 75 more hundred, right? So the say, oh yeah, that's all y'all need, woo. I just spent that shit on shoes, woo. Alright. Why you say it like that though? Now we call him again like a week later or something. Then what's up with that money, gang? Like, you know, we trying to get folks out.
Why?
Yeah, how much I need? We need 7,500 and shit. Ooh. This is a minute ago. So now I get that. Folks get that. What you say? Yeah, 7,500. I just do that shit in the club and shit. Ooh. So I'm see folks. I'm gonna take folks' chain off his neck and shit. I'm gonna take folks' shit. To go get the bomb money.
In May of 2013, GBE, OTF, and another set called Mubu, that's affiliated with rapper King Louie, had a joint concert. Some OTF affiliates decided to jump Keef for refusing to give up the $7,500 for Trey 5's bail, even though he recently signed a $6 million deal with Interscope. During the fight, Keef's homie Ball Out ended up getting his chain snatched, although the rumors are that it wasn't even his chain. It was the Jesus piece he snatched from Soulja Boy. Backstage, they cornered Durk because they believe he initiated the fight. Lil Reese even choked Lil Durk for getting Ball Out's chain snatched.
No, I been knew you was going on with Durk. I was right there when you choked Durk. Nigga, you telling me I don't know what's going on.
Then, Durk would get locked up for the gun charge about a week later. At this time, the beef between O-Block and OTF was still small, which is why he reached out to Keef to help pay his bail. But Keef was probably still mad that Durk's people tried to jump him, so he refused to pay the bond. But Durk probably felt like their relationship was stronger than that and started to question Keef's loyalty after he got the same treatment as Trey 5 and D Rose. After the Twitter fight, the beef died down for a while. Apparently, they spoke on the phone and came to an understanding. It still seemed like there was tension, but it wasn't going to resort to violence. But not long after supposedly squashing the beef, Lil Durk would post a track list to his upcoming album with the caption, "My fave song off #Signed to the Streets." The song that was highlighted was called OTF Chief Keef Diss. This diss reignited the beef on Twitter, and Durk and Sosa would continue going back and forth. Then, Keef would repost the cover to Chirac to LA, a Lil Durk diss track by The Game and Tyga. After that, Keef did a song with Tyga, who Durk was beefing with at the time. So Durk responded by doing a track with the Migos, who Keef and GBE were beefing with. Durk even brought the Migos to O-Block to shoot a video, which was clearly meant to get at Keef. The beef would reach a climax after a couple of O-Block goons allegedly broke into a house being rented by Keef and snatched his chain. In late March 2014, Sosa was set to appear in court for one of the legal situations he was facing. While he was in court, a crew of dudes from O-Block, including Boss Top and OJ, as well as a few members of another BD set called THF, broke into a home that was being rented by Keef and his former manager. They ransacked the house and stole tons of valuables, including designer clothes and sneakers. Keef's former manager, Brandon Zerrer, was in the home at the time and called 911. Keef would later call him a soft-ass on Twitter for calling the cops. Keef showed up while they were still home, which is when Boss Top allegedly snatched his signature Johnny Dang chain, and OJ snatched a chain from GBE Capo. A shootout followed, and a 33-year-old named Terrence Smith was non-fatally injured. Boss Top and the other BDs then stole Keef's car and fled the scene. Keef brought Terrence Smith to the hospital, but refused to cooperate with police, so no arrests were made. A police document from the Gang Enforcement Division was released after the shooting and stated that the Black Disciples were having an internal conflict. The crazy thing is that before this all went down, Keef and Boss Top were close. Keef even gifted Boss Top a Burberry shirt that he was known to wear everywhere, so much that Mubu Crump would even put out a video clowning him for it.
Why every time we see you out here, you got this same Burberry
Social gave me shirt. I never take the shirt off. Billy.
Why you even gonna take the shirt off?
Billy Social gave me shirt. I never take the shirt off.
Billy, huh?
Billy.
Also, on BD, huh?
But money and fame can turn even the closest friends against each other, and it seems like Boss Top sided with Lil Durk for the war in O Block. That same day, Keef and Boss Top would go back and forth on Twitter, with Keef tweeting, "I clothed you, B, and put money in your lint ball pockets. And I ain't nothing like these, but we look alike. Way higher form and fashion, and I'm loyal. I was giving little dirty folks in them clothes." He also dropped a wild bombshell, tweeting, "Folks, they stole KK clothes out her room. Detergent, deodorant, and all on Bloods. They stretched that shit, alright." KK is Keef's daughter, and in this tweet, he's telling the world that they didn't just take adult designer clothes, they took his 3-year-old daughter's clothes and random household items like deodorant and detergent. Keef even called out Boss Top by name, along with his former producer, Young Chop. Boss Top responded by posting a picture of a gun on IG with the caption, "GBE," and told Keef to come to the hood that you say you from. He would also later release a music video where he can be seen flexing with Keef's stolen chain. Plus, not long after that, Durk would drop a video with another Chirac Savage, THF Bezu, dancing around with Capo's stolen chain, while Keef's Close That Door video plays in the background.
Is that it? What video is it?